What are your expectations for, or what do you want to get out of spring practice?
Well, obviously, it's great to have the experience that we do have coming back because it's going to allow us to focus in on the young players that we have in our program and try to get those guys better. But I think anytime you lose the 4 players we lost up the middle in Deontay Williams, Andre Broadus, Jeff Hyde, and Kenny Jackson on the defensive side of the ball, those 4 positions are critical for us to find replacements for that maybe aren't going to be them next year but have the ability to be as good as those 4 guys were because those were 4 great football players.
How did Vince and Chris and Tanner respond to Dano coming to town?
You know, I think they all looked at it like the competition was already open to start with, so it just added, you know, it added somebody to the field, you know. So instead of 3 guys, you know, our job is to make sure that we get enough reps for all the guys so that we can make a determination on who the quarterback will be. So Daniel Graves coming is good for us. His background's probably good for us and all those things, but we feel very comfortable in the 3 guys that are here too. So I think those 4 guys are going to have the battle to see who is going to be the #1 quarterback on May 5th.
What kind of new things will we see from you this spring?
Well, you probably would have saw a little bit more if we didn't have some of the disruption that we had this past weekend. So, you know, congratulations to Brian Cook and his opportunity to move to Georgia Tech. I think that that's a good thing, but I think where we are offensively, we did find some things and study some things in the offseason that we think we can help us. Playing with a tight end is one of them. So you'll see a tight end this spring. We have 2 currently on the roster, and we'll see how those 2 young people do as far as adjusting to it and how we do as an offense as far as finding out what the strengths of that will be. A lot of that process came from playing schools like Sam Houston State in the playoffs that played with a tight end and still have option principles. I think that we saw some of the benefits of what they do, and we're going to try to reap some of the things we learned by playing them. So I think that that's going to be something new. I think there's going to be some wrinkles probably in the pass game a little bit, as there were, and I think defensively we'll have a couple of new adjustments that we think will help us in our pass defense.
How did the situation with Brian come about? Was it something that was building for a couple of weeks and you were aware of, or was it a...
Well, you know, Brian's done a good job, and the whole offensive staff has really done a great job of going and visiting different colleges that are similar to us, and there are not a lot of them in the Western United States. So Brian, with his connections at Georgia Tech, when he would head home for vacation, would always make it a point to stop and spend a day or 2 in Atlanta and research what we do as opposed to what they were doing. So I think he reestablished some relationships there, and then I think you combine that with the successes that we've had lately and the numbers that we were putting up on offense, and I think he became somebody that was very hireable. And I think that Paul Johnson made a smart move and recognizing that a young guy at Cal Poly could help Georgia Tech hopefully to improve in what they're doing on offense. So great opportunity for Brian, and we wish him the very best and thank him for what he did here.
But caught you off guard a little bit at least.
A lot of it.
But
you know, once you get by that immediate rush, usually it's sometime after the national convention, which is in January, and you get into early February, you start feeling comfortable. That's probably a bad thing because every time I start to feel comfortable with who we have, somebody comes along and scoops somebody up. And it's good for our guys. I mean, it's a great opportunity for them. And I think if we continue to hire, you know, 30 to 35-year-old young people with families and they're any good at all, they're going to get opportunities. And I've been really fortunate in my past from Gary Patterson and Chris Peterson and Dan Hawkins to the guys that I'm hiring now that have had opportunities to move on and make great careers for themselves in the game of college football. So it's going to happen. It's just that we really weren't ready for it. The fortunate part is our staff was, because Justin's been itching to coach the quarterbacks. It's the position he played. Saga's been dying to call the plays and having that opportunity. I mean, he's a little bit nervous if you go down to the office right now, but he's definitely fired up about his opportunity. So it's creating opportunities for other young people, and I think that's really what we do in this profession. And I think we have some great young coaches here that'll continue the successes that we've had on offense.
Guys?
What are you looking for in the replacement for the offensive coordinator?
Pretty much Saga Tuatelli, who's coached the offensive line and has been with me for a long time. He played for me and coached every year since for me when he finished playing. So I've known Saga since he was 17 years old. He'll be the offensive coordinator and still, you know, assume the offensive line duties where he's done a tremendous job. And then Justin Wood will move from wide receivers to quarterbacks, where he was a drafted player in the NFL as a quarterback. So that's an opportunity for us to really, truly, maybe get better. You know, young people stepping up into positions they're ready for, I think, helps us.
So is that more of the same, or are you expecting them to bring some new ideas?
Well, I think the new ideas have been discussed this entire offseason with when Brian was there, and we had the new ideas were on the table. So the adjustments that we made in the offseason, they're there now. And so will we get to all of them this spring because of maybe this interruption? I don't know. But by the time we play our first game on August 31st, we'll be ready to roll. Great. Thank you.